2, 1. We are live. Darnell Smith, episode 200. It's good to have you on.
Yes, sir. What's going on, my guy? You looking good. I see the new
Ah, look,
setup. I like it.
yeah. I'm trying to get like you over there. So, it's Amazon works wonders. So we're here. We're shooting the podcast. It's good to be back. You're killing it. You're absolutely killing it. You got so many things going on. I tell you this every time, but you really are. You go on Instagram and you just see everything from clothing brands to what you do at Fox Sports to what you do with your podcast. You're just not stopping.
Hey, man, the grind don't stop, man. Not to get super deep as soon as we hop on, but like I always say, man, like I believe everything happens for a reason. I think there's a reason that I was brought out
Yeah.
to Los Angeles 4 years ago. There's a reason things have lined up the way that they have. So I'm just trying to take full advantage of every single opportunity, man. So that's where I'm at.
Let me, like you said, I guess we'll get into the deep convo. Let me ask you this. So you said everything happens for a reason. Now, I don't like one thing I try not to do is talk about religion and politics, but
Right.
one thing I'll say is I'm faithful. Like I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that, like truly, that there's things that have to happen that you may not understand in the moment,
Right.
but you'll understand it later on. And so, like a no now or a failure now, you had to have that in order to have this success maybe 10 moments later, maybe 5 years later, maybe a week later, who knows?
Yeah.
But I feel like there is something that's special about understanding that. I didn't understand that until like the last 2 years. That's something I've been trying. And I'm not saying I'll ever have it really truly figured out, but these past 2 years, that's something that I've been trying to grasp that concept more because I always used to ask why. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why did I not get that? I'm qualified for that. Why could I not get that? And so it's just frustrating me because I'm over here putting in the work and I'm not getting the results. But then luckily I have like really close friends and family members and guidance, and they've been able to kind of shed that perspective a little bit. When did you realize that?
Man, great question, man. So like again, I'm a spiritual person as well, faithful person as well. So, I've tried to always kind of keep that mindset, but like you said, we're human. We fall short and
Yeah.
it's hard to stay as disciplined. So the biggest moment for me would be once my football career ended in college. I had my knee injury, missed out my entire senior year, got DQ'd, so basically missed my entire season and career ended. And at that moment, my mindset was like, I'm going to the league, or I'm at least have an
Yeah.
opportunity to go to the league. And something that I had worked for so long just abruptly ended. It was out of my control. And then at the time, it was tough, right? For about 2 years, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Woo, woo, woo. And then I fast forward to the last 4 years, being out here in LA, working at Fox Sports, being on TV, and I found a new passion. And that moment, those two scenarios, it's like I think back to myself often, like, man, if I never got hurt, I probably would have been that guy and I'm not dissing someone who's doing this. I'm just saying,
Right.
I would have been that guy that probably would have kept hopping around, kept trying to like find a new league, and again, that's not a problem, but I probably would have spent a lot of time chasing my, that old dream, that original dream, and missed out on opportunities to really land into this new passion, this new world that I'm in now. So it's
Right.
like you said before, sometimes things have to happen, good, sometimes bad, that allows other doors, bigger doors to open up for you down the road. And that's how kind of, I guess, the one moment that really stands out for me the most.
Yeah. And it's funny how that works. And like I said, and you said it too, like I'm not perfect. Like I don't always understand it. I try, like in the moment. Of course, when things happen, it's easier to reflect that and be like, okay, I get it. But in the
Right.
moment, you're just like, why? And
What's
so,
going on?
yeah, why? Yeah, I just don't understand it. So, do you have, for me, one thing I've noticed too is I have, I guess you can call them role models. I'm kind of hesitant to use that word because I just think there's sometimes a negative connotation to that because I'm not trying to become someone else. I'm trying to be who I am, but I like the way that they did things. Like you can learn things
Right.
from people. So it would for me, I'm constantly watching. And now this is probably not the right time to say it, but Will Smith. I'd always watch Will
Right.
Smith videos, or I'd always watch Kevin Hart videos, or
Right.
and I would listen to these people speak. Denzel Washington's amazing with this, and Kanye, his document. I won't talk to you about that, but I would listen to these people speak, and it's like a different language. Like I could show this video to someone else, and they'll think it's really cool. But when you're the person that's actually going through it, it feels like I can personally relate to them. Like it feels like they're directly talking to me.
Right.
Drewski said this one time. I don't know if you're familiar with
Come
Drewski, but
on now. Shout out to Drewski.
yeah, he said that he called his mom. He was watching the Steve Harvey video and he called his mom. He's like, yep, because that was the feeling. He's like, I know the school thing's not for me. I'm going to pursue comedy. And she hung up. But he said when he was watching these Steve Harvey videos, like he felt that. And so for me, those videos of people who've made it talking about that process that I'm currently in, that's kind of fuel to my mind. Do you have anything like that? Or is there anyone in your life that kind of touches that for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been, moments and certain people who have said things that have made me think to myself, like, man, this is exactly what I needed right now.
Yeah.
Exactly what I'm thinking. I mean, there's videos like I'm a Gary V guy. I don't know if you're a fan.
Yeah.
Gary V, man, he's a straight shooter, man. He tells you straight up, like, no excuses. This is what it is. Get it done. You got a chance. You're not too old. Like, I just love his energy because it's the mindset that I was taught in football of like, no excuses. Nobody cares. Figure it out. And that's the mindset that I love. So Gary V's a guy. Obviously, the late great Kobe. I love, when he speaks, I always just lock in. There's always a gem and something that he says. I mean, just the work effort and the mindset he took to the game. I think you could take that to life. And I try to, really take that Mamba mentality, so to speak, even in my field of life and in broadcasting, hosting, all of that. So those are two people that come to the top of the head. But there's always, like you said, man, you can learn something from like everybody, family, friend. Right. It could be someone you don't even like really, but they might say something in a moment like, you know what? Even though I don't like you, I do feel you on that.
No, absolutely. It's funny. It's like when I don't know if you have this, but they say like Eminem and Lil Wayne, sometimes you have to like just listen to their song. No matter how many times you listen to it, you pick up something new. Yep. So like I could watch the same video over and over and over again throughout a course of time. But every time I listen to it, I'm like, okay, that registered differently that time. I'm like, okay, I get that because maybe it's an experience I'm going through. But yeah, no, you're a very motivated person. And that's one thing that I immediately related to you out the gate was what you do. Now, Gary V is interesting. I'm glad you brought him up because he's like really embraced content. Like he's always ahead of the curve. He's always in NFTs. Okay. Now it's the metaverse. So that's what I wanted to actually talk to you about was Mark Cuban said this on Colin Cowherd's podcast. And he said, TikTok is going to be the future of sports because as the younger generation comes about and we're all losing our attention spans, everything's quick, microwave society. Obviously, TikTok knows how to read algorithms. Okay, you like this video, you're going to get 8 videos like this right after you watch this one. Baseball, really long games here, just watch the home runs. Do you like that? When you hear that from someone who obviously is very tech savvy, an NBA owner of the Dallas Mavericks, he knows what he's talking about. So do you like that direction, considering we're diehard sports fans, so of course we're going to watch the games, but do you like that direction?
I don't mind it. You know why? Because I think you just hit the nail right on the head right at the end of your sentence. People like you and we're diehard sports fans. So regardless, we're going to watch the full game.
Yeah.
I can't really control what the other person does or if you're just a casual fan and you rather just watch the highlights real quick. Okay, I get it. Life is fast, fast paced. There's a lot of things going on. Some people don't have the time or opportunity necessarily to sit down and watch a full 3-hour event, 2.5-hour event. So I don't mind it. And I'll be honest, there's times where, hey, I can't catch every single game that I want to catch. Right. So I might need some quick, just some quick notes to see, all right, what happened, who scored what, who got in a fight, when did it happen? Let me see it real quick. So, I'm one of the guys where I kind of feel like people like you and I think I'm a couple years older than you, but we're kind of in that like tweener generation where like, okay, growing up, I played outside. I grew up at a time where I didn't necessarily have like internet. Like that wasn't, or we had it, but it wasn't a big thing, right?
I played Manhunt.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? I was Doug, Goot, hide, go seek. I was out in the streets playing around. But then I'm also part of the generation where, internet started to really come about. MySpace, Facebook was created, Twitter. So we're kind of like in that tweener where I can relate to both sides, the old school and this new school TikTok generation. So, I'm one of those guys, I don't hate it. Do what works best for you. I think it's necessary to have these short form content. I'm still going to watch the full games, but hey, do your thing.
It throws me off though, because you'll go shopping. I don't know if you noticed this, but Florida, like I always told you, there was no pandemic for Florida. So like
Never.
basically, yeah, nothing ever really changed. So when you go out there shopping, people are just dancing and tick like you're like, what is going on? And you just realize you got a phone posted up. Yeah, and they're exactly like what is it? Like just in the middle of the street. It's insane. My mom's a teacher, and she said these kids will just stop what they're doing, and they'll just do whatever's trending. I'm like, oh, this is just not good. But as far as podcasting, what do you think it's done for cable TV? Because it's disruptor, right? So Netflix to cable TV. Now you got Hulu, Amazon. The list goes on and on. Disney Plus. Podcasting seems to be the way everybody's heading in that direction. We all want to hear what people have to say. If you have a platform, if you're famous, if you like, we were just talking about hotboxing with Tyson.
Yeah.
He's the most dangerous man you could argue of all time in sports. And we get to see this completely wise and not to say soft, but just a laid back person. And so it's so fascinating to hear someone like Tyson being so calm and wise. And I think people are fascinated behind that. Do you think we eventually get away from cable altogether?
That's a tough question, man. It's hard for me to think that we'll completely just get away from it,
Right.
Just because there's certain things. I mean, there's movies, there's certain things that still, I still go to cable to watch, right, and to see, right. But I do agree, and I do believe that the viewership will lessen because, again, people have short attention spans in the younger generation, so they want more quick hitters. But then when it comes to podcasting, people want that authenticity. And just being real, traditional TV shows, I'm not saying they're not authentic, but they can't go all the way there. Where podcasting, for the most part, like you can do your thing, like whatever is on your mind. And if you, depending on the podcast, if you want to curse, you can do that. If you want to talk about some crazy stories, you can do that. If you want to drink on it, like whatever you want to do, that's your freedom. And people like authenticity. You want to hear the real. You talked about Mike Tyson, like, the Mike Tyson that we've all known from the media is this tough, mean, this giant. But then you watch him on this podcast, he's chilling back. He's smoking, talking about taking psychedelics and all these crazy stories and relaxing. So it's just like you're seeing a real side and another side that truly humanizes these athletes, these stars, these journalists, whoever, right? So I think podcasting will continue to grow, man.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm going to tell you this. Let's document it. I think the metaverse is, I don't know if you're sold on it. I know a lot of people love it or hate it. I think it's here to stay. I don't know. It reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever seen Ready Player One.
I know what you're talking. I haven't seen it yet, but I was told to watch it.
Ready Player One, because you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, yeah, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but the synopsis of it, the summary is just basically the world is just completely devastated, whether it's resources and war and just people not getting along and poverty. So they enter this virtual reality where you could become anything you want. So that's almost become more valued than your real life because the possibilities are endless in this virtual world. And that's a cool concept when you could be whatever you want and there's a lot of benefits to it. But the backside of that is, yeah, people lose the value of actually in person and actual real world. And I don't know if you watch Black Mirror, but there was a whole Black Mirror episode on this. So it's like, I just feel that it has that negative potential. Right. And I also think it has that positive potential. But I do think that's the way that we're heading in, the direction we're heading in. UFC President Dana White just said this in a couple interviews back. And he said they're already thinking about putting fights into the metaverse.
I saw that.
And so I don't know if that means you and I buy tickets and, hey, Darnell, let's just meet up in Vegas in the metaverse and watch this live. And they actually fight in person, but they're selling virtual seats, I guess.
Right.
But I think this is the direction that we're going to get in, because now the bubble kind of showcased it a little bit when you had that digital screen.
Yep.
I think we're going to see where, hey, I'm sitting next to Snoop at the Lakers game. Hopefully they're in the playoffs at that time. But I'm sitting with Snoop. Do you think that's the direction that heads in as well?
Yeah, man, I do, man. And it's crazy to think about because, I mean, I think where it's going to go is people are going to care more about the clout that they have in this metaverse than they do in real life. Like, hey, Darnell, your avatar doesn't have the latest J's on. You don't have and it's going to be crazy. It's almost going to be like the stuff that gave you clout in real life is going to transfer over to to the metaverse. And I do agree. I do think people are going to, a lot of sporting events and live events are going to transfer over to this virtual reality because it's big business potential. First of all, a lot of money that these businesses can make. But then from a fan engagement standpoint, it's giving you, access in a sense that maybe you wouldn't be able to have. You might be at a Lakers game virtually, but you're sitting next to, like you said, Kevin Hart or whoever. So it makes you feel like you're a part of something maybe bigger than yourself or something. You're in that space. You know what I mean?
Right. And I feel like in a weird way, we're already doing that in a sense with social media. Like people are so worried about how many followers they have, who's watching their video, who's liking their video. But it's also become a tool where if you're an entrepreneur, it can enhance your business. If you're in the media, it could be spotted by an athlete or by a sponsor or an advertiser. So it can be a valuable tool. Like there's benefits to it, but it's almost become, I don't know, like I know you know this. I mean, you walk around and everyone's got their phone. Like everybody's got their phone in their hand. So if you would have said that 10 years ago, 20 years ago to someone, they probably would be like, everyone's going to have this device. I don't want that device. But now it's become a necessity. If you don't have it, like I honestly don't know anyone who doesn't have a cell phone. So
right.
Like that's what the metaverse is going to become. And so now it's just going to become probably rejected at first by some, but eventually I feel like we're all going to become immersed in it where if you don't, you're probably going to end up falling behind in your business.
Yep. I agree 100%, man. Like the same type of things like happen in life over time. Like it's the same cycle. Like you said, things get rejected. People don't understand something. This is stupid. Why are we doing it? And eventually it becomes a necessity. The trends behind it, start to rise. Now everyone wants to hop on board. And then it's like, boom, here we are. I think your cell phone analogy was perfect. Yeah. Back in the days, people, cell phone, what? Like, why do I need a cell phone for? I got a house phone, I got a cordless phone. You know what I'm saying? And then you get your cell phone, and it's like, okay, you use it just for calls. But then it's okay. Now I can get on the internet. Now I can. It just keeps developing, as things change, your mindset has to change in order to just stay on track with what the world is moving. I always tell my mom, because she's real old school, like still in mentality. Which is good, man. I understand it, man, and it's good to kind of still get that touch of the old school, right? But I always tell her, hey, mom, like I feel you. I'm not saying you got to come all the way on board of what's going on now, but you have to at least understand it in order to just stay afloat and keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. You know what I mean? Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think it's a lot that we don't know about the Web3 and all this yet. It's going to continue to develop over the next few years, but I think at its peak, it's going to be some crazy stuff going on, Max. Virtual that we've never seen before.
But in a weird way, I could be a little biased here, but us tweeners, I feel like maybe have a little bit of an advantage because then when it comes to having people skills and when it comes to actually being able to put the phone down and have a conversation, I feel like that will be valued. It'll be rare. And so then it's like, wow, this is a nice guy. It's like, no, that's just what was normal back in the day. But
this is a nice guy.
Yeah. But we're talking about the crypto world. We all know what happened to the Staples Center. So now it's crypto.com. You're out in LA. We'll talk about it now. What is that like? What is the feeling in LA seeing them not even make the play-in tournament? I had a bet with Brendan Haywood, and I was like, man, before the season started, I was like, I'm taking the Lakers. I said, well, LeBron James, Anthony Davis healthy, they've proven to win. Now, before that, after the bubble, AD was banged up, then Bron was playing minutes, so then he got banged up. When they played Phoenix, they weren't 100%. I was just convincing myself. It sounded like it made sense. So then when he bet Golden State. So I was like, okay, we'll make that bet. And that's probably one of the worst bets I've ever made. I pride myself on doing pretty good with bets. And so that was one of the worst bets I've ever made. What is it like in that LA area? What is everyone's demeanor right now towards the Lakers? Are they having sympathy for them? Are they rooting for them? Or are they just frustrated?
For the most part, man, people are just frustrated. They're disappointed. I know myself. I definitely am. Listen, there's excuses there. Hey, AD was hurt. I think LeBron missed some games. Westbrook wasn't the perfect fit. Like, there's so many excuses you can throw. But we're not in LA. You're not trying to hear that. Every team has an excuse. Shoot, just right across the locker room, the LA Clippers have an excuse. But look how well they've been able to manage. Two of their two top stars. Kawhi missed the entire season. Paul George missed a huge chunk of the season, and they were still able to stay afloat. They're in the play-in game right now, so they'll have a chance to actually make the playoffs. So you have a direct example of someone who dealt with very similar situations in terms of injuries, who were still able to overcome that. So again, I'm not saying the Lakers should have won the championship this year. I'm not saying they should have been a top 1, 2, 3 seed, but to miss the play-in, Max, the play-in. I think me and you and 3 guys at Fox could probably make the play-in.
Yeah, I can stretch the floor. I can definitely shoot it.
I'm more of a Draymond Green. I'll give you a couple steals, a couple rebounds. I'm gonna do a little bit of everything. We can make the play-in, Max. And for you to have LeBron James, Westbrook, all those guys, and miss the play-in.
The play-in.
The play-in. Not the playoffs, man. Not the playoffs.
The play-in.
Play-in.
And see, that's my whole thing. Like, it's not even just about it didn't work. It's not even about health. That's just effort. Like, it just felt like this team had no heart. Like, no heart. Now, there's been teams who've won championships who haven't been the most talented. And like you said, we're not even talking about winning the championship. We're talking about the play. And you have a guy
low bar.
You're averaging 38-6.
Yeah.
And you guys don't make the play-in? Like, that just doesn't make sense. It felt in a weird way like they were self-sabotaging themselves. Was there something, do you think there's something in that locker room like, we don't want this to work. I don't want to play these group of guys any longer, because if there was that heart and camaraderie and that chemistry, you would know these guys are going down fighting. I never got any of those type of vibes from them.
That's a good point. I just feel like about halfway through, like, after the All-Star break, I think AD got hurt, came back, got hurt again. And I just think around that time, I just felt like LeBron and some of just the OGs was like, man, this ain't gonna work this season. It's just a wrap. So I think LeBron said, hey, I'm gonna get mine. Exactly. I'm gonna get my numbers up, do my thing. Hey, and we'll try to figure this thing out next year. But it's a wrap this year. Because I agree with you. I would watch the game and it's like, what is going on? Like, you're literally not trying. There's multiple plays where LeBron has stayed on the opposite side of the end on defense and guys not closing out. And it's like, it's just effort at this point. You're not even trying. And I don't think it was like that the entire season. I think the first half of the season, they were trying. It's just they were trying to it was a lot to figure out. Westbrook is a interesting piece that a lot of us didn't think would even fit early on. We just thought that, hey, if anybody can make it work, LeBron will make it work. And ultimately, he couldn't make it work. You know what I'm saying? But I do think the effort was there early on. But I just think after so many games of losing, AD getting hurt, I feel like they lost the faith. And just when you lose the faith, the effort went down. The age thing probably plays somewhat of a role as the season, as the long season goes on. And it just didn't work out, man. I'm with you, though. I'm still kind of shocked even thinking about, like, the Lakers missed the play-in.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense when you say it out loud. Now, I did some real thinking about this too, because it's easy to kick a man when he's down, right? But everyone's got an opinion on it that the Lakers, you're going to be talked about. You're LeBron James. But Darnell, LeBron James' legacy, whether people like it or not, is set. If you think he's the second greatest of all time, this season's not going to change him being the second greatest of all time. Russell Westbrook, believe it or not, even though he had a terrible season, his legacy is set. He's going to be known as Mr. Triple-Double, right? He's that guy. Want to know whose legacy isn't set? That's Anthony Davis. He may have won a ring. He may be talented. But if he were to stop playing right now, I don't think we are going to look at him as highly as what he was in his peak. Like, with short-term memory, people are going to say, yeah, he was talented. He won a ring. But his potential was way higher. Russell's is set. LeBron's set. AD's is not. I feel like he actually, believe it or not, lost the most from this season than anybody.
That's a good point, man. So first of all, I do agree with you with especially LeBron. This is LeBron said, like, whatever you think about LeBron is what it is. There's nothing to me he can add or take away from his legacy at this point in his career. I agree with Russ. Like you said, Russ is a former MVP, he's Mr. Triple-Double. Even in a really bad year, I think he still averaged like 17, 8, and 6 or something around those numbers. So not horrible from a number standpoint. Mm-hmm. But you do make a good point about Anthony Davis, right? Like, I agree. His legacy isn't set, but the only thing I think that protects him, particularly this season, is the fact that he was hurt. Now, I know the argument is that he's always hurt. He's always injured. But it's like, I don't know. It's something about an injury that tends to protect players. Because it's like, all right, it's not like he went out there and performed bad. He just had an unfortunate injury,
Right.
So I think he's a slightly protected there, but I also agree with he still has a lot left to prove. Like he doesn't have the resume that Westbrook has. Of course, he doesn't have the resume that LeBron has. No MVPs. He's never really led a team deep into the playoff. I think he made the playoffs one time with the Pelicans. So I mean, there's still a lot of that he has left to prove and show on the table. I mean, this is somewhat separate, but even thinking back to the NBA, the top 75 list, I know there's a lot of controversy between, I know in my group chat about Anthony Davis making it and Dwight Howard not making it. Because let's be real, just look at the resume. Look at Anthony Davis had a better resume or career than Dwight Howard. I say no. I don't see how. I mean, Dwight Howard is it 3 or 4 defensive player of the year, led his team to the finals. I know he lost to Kobe, but he led his team there, has, been on top seeded teams. Dwight Howard has a ring, the same ring that AD has, obviously. I'm just saying, I don't know, Max. So, it's still a lot to be proven. He's very talented. He has the similar skill set as like a Joel Embiid, but you see Embiid is out here about to, potentially win MVP. Right. We haven't seen that from AD, you know what I'm saying? So he just has to, he has to stay healthy. So I don't know what he's doing in the offseason, but he needs to change it. Change it ASAP so he can stay healthy. And then from there, just, I don't know, it's a mindset, man. Like sometimes AD's on the court, he doesn't play with that. He has to get mad to get to that point. It's like, no, just come out there and play like a dog. So
yeah. You know what I think it is? I don't think he loves it. And now I'm not trying to. Like, I don't know the person, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to try like, oh, you don't love this. Like, who am I to tell you what you do and don't love? But from what I'm sitting, and my job is to give opinions. Right. I just don't think he loves it. Like, if you like, I don't know if I got that vibe from Kevin Love a little bit. Like he was putting up massive numbers. I remember him in Minnesota, but in Cleveland, like you talk. I mean, obviously he's on the back nine of his career now. Just don't feel like he loves it. Like he's really good at it. Like he's really talented, and that's why he's been able to do what he did. But I don't think he loves it because and I've had this conversation with someone about it, and he kind of brought this to my attention. I was like, that's right. Because I mean, if the whole world is criticizing you about being injured, and LeBron James, you're 19, short window, he's putting pressure on you. You have Charles Barkley saying street clothes Anthony Davis. And you still aren't really the same going into that season. At what point, like, what more fuel do you need? I just don't get it. And it reminds me of it's a little different. Derrick Rose had potential to be God knows what. And he talent we've never seen. Obviously the youngest MVP ever. Anthony Davis has talent. Like when he was playing with the Pelicans, he's putting up Wilt-like stats sometimes. Like, this is ridiculous. But we're never really seeing him blossom. Now, he hasn't had the extreme injuries like D. Rose has had. But, I mean, at some point in time, I feel like we're going to have the conversation of not that he underachieved because he's an NBA champion, but he didn't live up to what we thought he could. Or at least he didn't have that. Like, he didn't live up to his full potential.
Right.
And I just think at what point in time does Bron say, all right, look, I'm going into year 20. I want to win. What does he do? You know, like, is he?
It might be this year, Max. I don't know.
I think he may. I just, when I hear the trade rumors, I don't think that's like unrealistic to say Rob Pelinka is thinking about it.
Yeah, it's not unrealistic at all. I mean, you think about this team and what just went down this season. Again, you can point to injuries, and of course, injuries played a role. Yeah. But even when AD was on the court this year, it wasn't like the Lakers were just rolling. No, they were still. They were still struggling a little bit. It wasn't easy. So, if I'm Rob Pelinka, if I'm LeBron, and I know I'm on the last few years of my career, I want the best chance to win, or at least be in that conversation, right? So, why would I bring the exact same squad back? I mean, what's the definition of insanity, Max? Doing the same thing, expecting different results.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think the conversation is very realistic. Now, I know it might be tough because there's certain, with Westbrook, AD, contracts are kind of weird. So I don't know who's going to want to take up, these contracts and all that. But I do think Pelinka, I do think upper management, they're going to at least entertain conversations and see what they could possibly get. Because why not? It doesn't make sense not to. You see what AD is. You can almost bank on it. Like, you can almost gamble on it every season. He's going to get hurt at least twice.
Yes. Yeah, I think he there's a greater chance of him getting hurt than not.
Yes.
And I would call up Portland and be like, "Hey, Portland, I'm going to give you AD for Dame.
Just straight up.
I'll give you AD." And I don't know how their contracts work. I don't know how that would. So I'd have to look at that. But
Right.
Damian Lillard, he's coming off an injury as well, but it's not to the same extent as how AD's history is.
Right.
Damian Lillard wins now, point guard, obviously can shoot in the crunch. You want him at the free throw line. You want him handling the ball. He's clutch. Him and Braun have always flirted with the idea. Every Instagram live they have the opportunity to, they talk about it.
Yeah.
Hey AD, here Portland, AD for Dame.
Let me ask you this though, but LeBron, Russ, and Dame?
No. You're gonna trade Russ.
Oh, so Russ is gone. Okay, cool. So we're already assuming Russ is gone.
Yeah, no disrespect to Russ. Like I say, he's an amazing talent, and I'm not ever questioning his career, but it doesn't work. Like, I mean, it's not rocket science, and we all know it didn't work. So He is, I thought that's inevitable. Like he's gone. So now it's just what are we doing with the pieces we have? Like, what can we get for it in return? So Westbrook's out of there. Get obviously, like, this is all easier said than done, but get Dame. And then you could work the pieces on what you can get for Russ. Because I don't know. I heard Charlotte was flirting with the idea. I just don't know what the market's like for someone getting paid $40 million in that type of age frame. So we'll see what that's about. But that's what I would do. And lastly, I want to talk to you the MVP award. I've had so many different opinions about the MVP award. The MVP criteria is what frustrates me more than anything. It changes more than the candidates do. Because at one point in time, it's the best stats. Then it's the best narrative. Russell Westbrook can average a triple-double one season. He gets it because of it. The next season, he averages a triple-double, but he doesn't get it. Giannis puts up great numbers, but he gets the MVP, but he puts up even better numbers next season. He doesn't get the MVP. It's voter fatigue. I can't stand it. Like, I think you should just say best player award. But I love the idea of the MVP. So I'm always engaged in the conversation. Jokic is mine. I think he's done the most with less. Not having Jamal Murray, not having Porter Jr., his second and third best player, just putting up the highest PER of all time. We've never seen a guy who can do that point center position like him. I think Giannis is the best in the world, but I think this is Jokic's MVP. Embiid may be the most dominant. This is Jokic's. Who's yours?
It's funny that there's a name that you didn't even bring up. Didn't even come to the front of your mind. Devin Booker. Balling out. That's right. Listen, to me, historically, and you're right. The MVP has changed, right? All the time. It, like every year, you never know what's going on. But I feel like typically, they lean more so on team success and like best player on that team. And with Phoenix being the clear, at least right now, the clear best team in the league right now by record, and Devin Booker being the guy who's leading that, especially the last few months, CP dealing with his injury and being out. I think we got to put a little bit more respect on Devin Booker's name. Now, I agree with you from if I had to pick just in general, who's balling the most, then I probably would lean more on the Joker. But at the same time, it's like I think back to when Steve Nash won 2 back-to-back MVPs, and I'm a huge Kobe guy. So at the time, I'm like,
yeah, come on.
What are we talking about here? Like, look what's going on. But like you said, it's not the best player award. Yeah. It's the most valuable award. So I compare those Phoenix teams to somewhat of like what's going on now with this Phoenix team. You got the best team in the league. Right. You got a star. And again, Devin Booker is balling out. I do want to make that clear. It's not like we're just handing it to him because he's on the best team. He is balling as well on that team. And one thing I want to ask you, Matt, because you made a good point about the Joker. You said you want to give him the award because he's doing the most with the least. Mm-hmm. But at the same token, should we punish guys because their team is good? Like, if I'm balling out on a good team, like, I have no chance of winning the MVP because my team is good?
No, it's a great point. And that's why, how are we judging it? Because LeBron James, there was voter fatigue. Well, he's with the Miami Heat. He didn't get some of those. But then, like Jordan, he would win it on the Bulls. Obviously, they had the best team. And it's just, There's examples of people who don't have a lot around them. Like when Russell Westbrook was willing the Thunder to the playoffs after Kevin Durant left, and it was like him and Oladipo, and it's like, okay, he didn't have the best team. So do we consider that? That's a fair question, because if we're talking about who's the most valuable to their team, then you have to consider it. Right. But if you're saying who's the most valuable player, that kind of sounds like who has the greatest impact on just any team, no matter what team they're on.
Right.
You know
I
what I
agree.
mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So if we're saying this, who's the overall most valuable player, no matter what team they're on, then my answer is it's almost like that kind of judges on who I think is the best player.
You know
You know
what I'm
what I mean?
saying?
Because if you have the
now,
greatest,
now I'm thinking Giannis, you know?
exactly. I was just about to say that. Now it's Giannis because right now, what he means to his team from a leadership standpoint, what he means to his team offensively, defensively, there's no one who's really meaning more to a team than Giannis is with the Bucks. If he's not with Milwaukee, we're never talking about Milwaukee ever. Like they're not winning a championship.
Max, I do have one more name though. If we're going that route,
Go ahead.
Kevin Durant.
That's a fair point, though.
If we're talking about most,
yes,
valuable play, because when he left the Nets, the reason the Nets are in the play-in right now is because Kevin Durant got hurt.
Yeah, it's because of him,
and he's the one who led them back. Yeah, but if he never got hurt, they're probably third seed. You know what I'm saying? We're not even talking about it. So
exactly, and so that's why when he does one of it was deciding point for me was when D Rose got it, and I love D Rose.
Yeah,
but LeBron's like, I'm gonna guard him this postseason, and he shut him down. Okay, Bron's the MVP. Like, Bron should have about 8 of them. Jordan should have about 8 of them. Kobe should have about 5 of them. Like, that's why the narrative to me has taken control of the award more than actually talking about the player themselves. But Devin Booker, the only thing I hold against him, because I love his game, and I think he resembles Kobe. I'm not saying he is Kobe by any means, but just the way he plays, his approach, his footwork. Chris Paul, he didn't make the playoffs at all. And then Chris Paul gets there. Now, granted, that franchise was changing because in the bubble, when they had that play-in, they were playing good. So I'm not saying it's all Chris Paul. But when Chris Paul got there is when we started to see just amplify the culture and the value. That's the only thing that I am like, okay, because really pre-Chris Paul, D-Book was putting up great numbers, but we had the question of, can he result that into wins?
I feel you. That is true.
That's the thing.
But like you said, let's go back to the bubble. I feel like something in the bubble ticked. I know it's like an 8-game stretch and that's it, but there was some type of energy going on. I would have loved to see the next season, at least for 20 games without Chris Paul, just to see if the Suns would have been trending up, just for us from a fan standpoint. Because like you said, there's no way for us to know now because the facts are the facts. Chris Paul got there, the team went to the finals, and then it's like, okay, boom. But I will say this, when Chris Paul is out, they still tend to play well now.
They do.
So, now go.
But by that criteria, though, then Ja Morant's not valuable at all.
Ooh.
Because the Grizzlies are 20-3 without him.
Yeah, Ja
Morant. Something insane. They're they have a great record without him.
That's a good point. I don't know. Hey, you know what? No MVPs this year. No, nobody wins. Toss the award away. Nobody's going to win this year. We'll try again 2023.
Nothing, right. Before I let you go and you plug your all your outlets out, I want to get you on the spot here before the postseason starts. I just covered my last Magic game yesterday. Who is your NBA champion this year? So you don't think I'm copying you, I'm going with the Milwaukee Bucks. I think they have more answers than questions. They have the best player in the world, full of champions. They're healthy. Every other team with the Warriors, obviously health issues. The Suns, Chris Paul, I hate to say it, but he gets injured every postseason. You look at the East, we had the Kyrie Irving availability. We have the 76ers. James Harden doesn't always show up in big moments. The Miami Heat, I don't think they have a true superstar. I don't have any of those questions with the Milwaukee Bucks. So that's why they're my prediction to win it.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a rematch in the finals then because I'm going with the Phoenix Suns. I just think there's something about losing it, getting to the big game and losing it, where there's just a different mindset and a different space that you can go into that when you win, I'm not saying the Bucks don't want it. The Bucks definitely want it, but you just can't reach that certain space. When you lose, man, and you were this close, man, that hunger is different. So I just like everything about the Suns, not just on the court, really more so off the court. They're friends, they're a family. They joke together after the game on the airplane. They're having fun. That's a true family with a great leader in Chris Paul. I think D Book's becoming a leader as well in his own right. As of right now, I have no reason to say why I don't think they can win. So that's who I'm going with today.
All right, we'll see. And they have what, 60 something wins? It's kind of hard to
I think
dispute that. So
64. I think yeah.
yeah. They're clicking. Darnell, it's always a pleasure. Episode 200. No better guest to have on than yourself. Please, you
Yeah.
got Live for Today. You got your podcast. You're doing work for Fox Sports. You know what the drill is. The floor
Yes,
is yours.
sir. So clothing brand, Live for Today, clothing brand, all about spreading a positive message, man, chasing your goals and your dreams and staying present. So check out the website. It's lftclothingbrand.com. Get your merch. I also host my own podcast with my guy, Brian Jones, aka Bolo. It's called the Porch Podcast. Find us on any streaming platform at the Porch Podcast and follow us on IG at the Porch Podcast _. And then, of course, man, Fox Sports, speak for yourself. Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Marcellus Wiley, Emmanuel Acho, man, tune in to SFY. Your boy, hey, I'm not on the air right now, but that's still my guy, still my show. I'm still behind the scenes with it. You got to support the family. So, hey, man, love it.
Before I let you go, I just want to compliment you on that because that show has evolved over the years and I never felt like it's dipped. It's always evolved and you guys are always growing no matter what the situation is, no matter the rotation. You guys never have skipped a beat, not one time. And so hats off to you because you guys have done an incredible job with that show. Seriously.
Shout out to the full team, man, behind the scenes guy, producers. I mean, hey, it's a group effort, team effort, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, Fox Sports by far has the best thing going when it comes to what you guys do from start to finish to Undisputed and The Herd and First Things First. And you guys, it's a complete, it feels like the Avengers. That's what it feels like. No matter what hero you feel like watching today depends on what movie you want to watch. You guys just hit the nail on the head. So
I knew we couldn't leave here without one more analogy real quick. You had to get that in there, Max.
Yeah, just one more. So Darnell, I appreciate it. Until next time, we'll talk soon.